done that. Now, looking to see if there are any citizen comments. Seeing no citizens, we'll have no comments. Moving on to the active agenda. Real quick, I guess I will give a quick overview of the purpose and what we're doing here. So this is the Public Works Advisory Committee. This is the first meeting that we have ever had, so thank the members and any of the members of the public who are watching their interest in participating. I think the goal of this we will further define as we learn more about how this group interacts not only with the city but the projects and the public. I hope to gain a little bit more trust within not just the community but with the city council and anybody else who interacts with public works of the projects that we're doing, why we do them, and how we get to the final product. So I appreciate this concept. I think it has good merit, and I hope that we are successful in better defining what public works is and how it serves the public, or city of Lewiston specifically. So that is my brief introduction, and now get back onto the active agenda. Election of officers. So currently seeking a nomination for a chair. We'll do that first, then we'll get to the vice chair. Nominations or discussion at this point.
Or do I just volunteer?
Or volunteer, you can nominate yourself.
Okay.
Well, I'll do it. I'll just go ahead and nominate Councilor Schroeder.
Okay. There's nomination on the floor
I wasn't here for that.
Well, there's always vice chair.
That's
Hold on. A motion to nominate Kathy Schroeder to be the chair. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion amongst the group. All right, all those in favor for Kathy to serve as the chair for the Public Works Advisory Committee, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, motion passes. So now, discussion, nomination for the vice chair. I guess I can hand it off to the chair now.
Yes, we'll open up the nominations for vice chair.
Actually, I have a question, Chair. Maybe, I don't know the experience of commissions or anything for everybody else, but a brief description of responsibilities of these positions before somebody volunteers for them. If that's necessary at all,
Or I'm going to nominate you as vice chair.
that's fine. But I mean, I just, just so everybody,
Yeah, maybe knows what those
I mean,
duties are.
is it just the chair and the vice chair responsible for running the meeting as, vice chair when chair's not present, that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Basically,
Yep.
that's correct.
Yep. Okay.
Well, that's simple enough.
And the chair and the vice chair are allowed to make mistakes.
Sure. Oh,
Just
yeah.
like I'm learning already.
This is a volunteer position, isn't
That's
it?
right.
So, absolutely.
Okay. So I would like, personally, if it's okay, I'd like to nominate Kevin for vice chair. Any discussion? Do we have a second? Okay, we have a second and no discussion. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I would ask, Kaylee is a student member,
I was
so
gonna
is she
say.
allowed to vote?
Kaylee is a non-voting
Oh,
member,
that's
but I
right.
think she, I
Can
mean,
she second that?
that's the question.
I think not.
Okay.
Am I?
Thank you though for doing
That's
that.
weird.
Nope.
I was on the commission before. I was the youth member and I was.
Coming into this.
Here we go.
That's
Sure, why
all.
not?
So
No, that's
maybe
fine.
we can
Yeah.
change it, but
Yeah.
that's the way it was written
I'll
over
second.
3 years ago. Thank you for the second. Okay, so again, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Kevin, you're the vice chair. Great.
One real, if I may interject, maybe
Please.
it would be a good idea, kind of as we work through this agenda backwards, a quick introduction for those who are here and maybe those who are watching and for the minutes. So when Haley does the minutes, we'll put them back in order. So I guess we'll start and just do a roundtable introduction.
And I appreciate you doing that. I'm a little rusty.
Yeah.
Kathy Schroeder, Lewiston City Council.
Oh, Kaylee Philippi.
Ryan Rader, engineer for Mountain Waterworks.
Laura Wright, consultant.
Kevin Kelly, service advisor.
Cassie Forsman, City Council, Lewiston City Council.
Dustin Johnson, Public Works Director, City of Lewiston.
Haley Kelly, Public Works Specialist.
Thank you, Haley.
No relation.
Okay, all right. So, the second item on active agenda is the adoption of Public Works Advisory Commission bylaws. For section 244B of City Code, each advisory board and commission shall adopt bylaws using the bylaws template approved by council. So we have that already in the works.
That should have been in your packet.
Yes.
It was, Chair, I have one
Yes.
question.
Mm-hmm.
Under meetings and minutes, it said, regular meetings, item B, regular meetings shall be held as needed basis on the second Wednesday at noon at the Vail Building, et cetera. And then it says, if a day fixed for a regular meeting falls on a holiday recognized by the city of Lewiston, meeting shall be canceled. So my question was, do all commissions then just cancel the meetings and wait till the next month? Or do they like council meetings, do they go to the next day? Depending on if there was something that needed attention, or is it just at, the meeting prior saying, the next meeting, and then try and get everybody scheduled for that next meeting? So I was just kind of curious, because just knowing some commissions in the past, sometimes there's an action item because you're working towards something. The director needs information to go back to the council or make a decision or whatnot. And, waiting an additional month, especially with the magnitude of the issues with Public Works, might be a little too long. So I was just kind of curious what group or what was common.
Yeah, typically on our other advisory boards, when something like this happens, they will cancel the meeting. It shouldn't happen that frequently with it being a Wednesday. but the other things happen. You may not be able to get a quorum if it's the week of Christmas or something like that. So they will cancel those. None of our meetings can happen without being publicly advertised, and so we just don't advertise it as a meeting, and it doesn't happen. Oftentimes what happens, say like the Christmas example, we will advertise a special meeting, say the week before that, so we can get that business taken care of.
Okay. So then it would just be, so I'm understanding, it would just be next month, it's a holiday, I don't know, I'm just gonna, and so therefore, does the committee want to reschedule it to the Thursday or the following Tuesday? Okay.
Yep.
Well, we have that month to work with that. I think we can. So that's a really good question. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and it oftentimes in the advisory boards, it's hard to get a quorum the week of Christmas and things.
Usually, I was just, so usually like the planning, because they're always having something, there's always dire needs for planning, it always seems like. They always, in past experience, they would always just have it the next day. So because it was either Monday or Tuesday, they would just go to the next day on Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever their meetings were. So it was just automatically written in that if it falls on that day, you know that, and then you just plan and know. So that's why I was just curious.
Yeah, like
Okay.
Thanksgiving, it will be the day before that.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
whether we choose to cancel or not, I guess is to the group at that point. But
It's also
That's true.
usually driven by a necessary need.
mm-hmm.
I mean, if there's things
Right.
that we need to prove or whatnot, I mean, because I know with planning and zoning, there's stuff we need to get to the council, and that kind of stuff, so the staff is really good at planning that around holidays and, the Thanksgiving and Christmas kind of thing, so.
Right. So I think that with that month in there, it's not just every week. So, yeah, we should be able to either move it the week before.
There'll be plenty of lead time.
Yeah, and I think the formation of this group originally was kind of an ad hoc as needed, and then I think as we came in, I thought, well,
That's not
I
gonna
didn't
work.
wanna I couldn't ask volunteers to come here every week, and so a monthly meeting seemed more appropriate, and as we get in further in the agenda topics, there's probably, in order for us to be most efficient with our time, probably a lot of homework and review of the documents that we have, or that we're preparing. So wanna be respectful of everybody's time, but also know there's just so much to consider and work through, trying to figure out where this group wants to go. And as conditions change out there in the real world, we may have to pivot and go in a direction that we're not even thinking about today.
And maybe we would be doing every other week.
And that's
Yes.
something that this group may wanna discuss as we.
To me, there's a lot here.
Yeah, yeah.
So we may just want to, as the group cements into this and say, yes, okay, I can do every other week. And I'm willing to do that, I believe, in my schedule. But certainly, between the two of us, we should be able to cover that if we choose to do something like that. So I think that's good, and we should be open to thinking about that, since this question was brought up.
And I was hoping for this group, and in the benefit of this group, because a lot of times what we're doing, the reservoir would be a great example. I just can't keep you guys informed quickly enough with the decisions that have to be made. That's probably not the big reservoir, as far as what we're gonna do with water, storage and all of that, that's a big topic that we can spend a lot of time on. But the immediate, that's probably not an appropriate, I wouldn't say appropriate, just not a good use of our time, because I'll meet with you next week and everything will have changed, and we go in a different direction. So I'm hoping for this group that, we pick topics and pick issues that are not gonna change dramatically, that we're looking long view, not short view.
Any more comments on that? Okay, moving on.
Do we need to adopt the bylaws?
Oh, we do need to do that. I already lost my track. Thank you, keeping me on track. So do we have a motion to approve?
I have a question.
Oh, yes.
So on Article 3, Section B, it says 2 years, but on the website it says 3. So which is it?
Yes.
Good catch.
Officers, isn't it? So officers are 2 years, no members are 3.
Officers.
Okay, because we did catch something.
I
Oh,
did
it's not
too.
just term, oh, I see what
Yeah.
you're saying.
Yeah, so
Okay,
chairperson
same
and
page, yeah.
vice chair
Oh,
would
okay,
be
okay.
Just for 2.
2 years.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So then
I think
after the 2 years, but okay.
Committee
It was
members.
Brian got put on the board for the wrong amount of time, so we had to redo that. Yeah, there was.
Okay, any other comments on the bylaws? Okay,
And I'll make a motion to approve the Public Works Advisory Commission bylaws.
do we have a second? Been moved and seconded to approve the bylaws. Any other discussion? Seeing none, then all those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you, it approves. Okay, discussion of initial focus of commission.
Okay, I added this, mostly, I think this can and should be the bulk of our conversation today. I wanted to have it as a discussion item, kind of a back and forth of, you guys obviously joined for a reason. And I didn't want to come to you and say, here's what you're gonna be learning, or here's what we want you to comment on, knowing that I think everybody in this room probably has some ideas, some opinions, some questions. So I want to have a dialogue back and forth that will help staff better prepare for future agendas as we start working through that. With that being said, the caveat is there's a lot of housekeeping in the front end. So we've got officers, we've got bylaws now. Legal will want to come do the public meetings, open law training, so we'll schedule that at a meeting, and that takes an hour. So there's gonna be some housekeeping, just getting this board off the ground to start out with. So I don't wanna lose momentum as we sit here and get all of our ducks in a row. But, so back onto the topics of concern, I think I will tell you, as a member of the group, my initial thought is, I think stormwater is one that is a major undertaking that the city's moving forward on, the creation of the utility. We will have a work session with the city council on May 1st, and that is the discussion and introduction of the stormwater ordinance, which will be basically the guiding document of the formation of the utility. We won't be adopting a rate with that. The rate will be unspoken. That will be adopted when we adopt our utility rate adjustments that we will be doing in August. So, but that will be the document that basically says we're creating a stormwater utility of essentially zero until the end of this year. So, if anybody has had an opportunity to read or been educated on what stormwater is, the MS4 permit, why we're creating a utility, and the steps that we're moving forward, that whether we like it or not, we're underway. So I think that is something I'll be bringing back to this board to get feedback on how we can better refine the message. If there's something that we're missing from a non-staff, non-technical viewpoint, even though we do have some technical people on this board, that's the first thing I think of when I think of the Public Works Advisory Committee that I want to get in front of you guys, so you can weigh in on it. So that's my first one. If there's, and I guess I'll throw it out to the group at this point. If there's anything else, anybody else would think that we should be focusing on over the next year or so.
So my question, first of all, when we had our initial discussion, is there any concern about the budget at this point, considering I know that the council at this point is meeting regularly on the budget? I don't know if there's enough time to get this group up on board with regards to the budget, because your budgets have to be passed the next couple of months. So I wasn't sure if that was an item of discussion that needed to come forward for advice based on the needs of anywhere from equipment to staffing and things of that nature. So that was just question number one. And then question number two, back to your stormwater, which was one of the items I had brought up, since a lot of people don't understand stormwater, whatnot. For a adoption of a utility rate like that, is that something that goes to is it something that the council can pass, or does it have to go before the voters?
The utility rate is not required to be voted on.
For stormwater?
For stormwater,
Okay.
yeah. That is a city council
Authorization.
yeah. Since it's a service provided, not a tax. A tax would have to be voted on.
That's what I was trying to make sure, it's
Yeah.
just how it's worded, and then, is it just for, stormwater can be tricky in the sense, is it just for flooding purposes and the control of stormwater, or is that utility going to go towards maintenance as well?
Yes.
How does this subject relate to stormwater efforts in the past by the city?
It's a great question. That's actually a lot of what our effort is on the May 1st work session, because legal has dove into this, and so those who may not be aware that City of Lewiston has had a stormwater utility in the past, and it went all the way to the state Supreme Court, and the decision was to dissolve the stormwater utility, and that was probably what, 2000?
It was, yeah, in that ballpark
Yeah,
area. I know
yeah.
I wasn't here that long, but wasn't in the Supreme Court deemed that it was a tax?
It was, yes, yeah.
Okay.
And so, Lewiston, good, bad, or otherwise, was kind of the benchmark for Idaho stormwater utility. And so you look at Coeur d'Alene, Moscow, and even the new Lewiston stormwater utility references that case law. And so there's, we can get the group the draft stormwater ordinance, so you can take a look at it. And all the whereases in the front end of that specifically call out, here's what was cited in that law, or in that, whatever, the case, and here's how this is different.
Okay.
And so, yeah, that is the first thing, and I've kind of, it's a challenge, and in speaking with our legal, I mean, I'm not an attorney, and definitely don't want to pretend to be one, but it's, you skirt that where our legal counsel says, we're rock solid, we're good to go, and based off of 15 years of challenges, not only in Idaho, but everywhere else, it's from our perspective, it's been settled, but our legal counsel is not going to give legal advice to the public or anybody else, but they will say, yeah, we're solid, we're comfortable with what moving forward.
Follow-up would be, you mentioned Coeur d'Alene and Moscow. Are there other cities in Idaho since then that have a stormwater utility?
They're all,
ordinance?
what's driving it now is Idaho is just now issuing all those MS4 permits. So there really wasn't the necessity necessarily previously to have those. And so I think you're seeing, like Moscow adopted theirs probably about a year and a half ago now, maybe just a year.
So, yeah.
So, yeah, so you're starting to see more unique, I shouldn't say unique, but more focused on utility format of funding stormwater than you did before they were issued the MS4 permit.
Next question. What's an MS4 permit?
I knew you were gonna ask that.
It's
Separate.
municipal separate storm sewer system.
Yep. And that's the federal requirement, that's the federal permit that's been issued. And Lewiston has been, it's probably taken 20 years from when Lewiston initially, by federal requirements, applied for their permit to when it was issued. Not, I don't know the details of, as to why, but that is a federal requirement. It has monitoring, it has a whole gamut of requirements for monitoring, maintenance, public education, enforcement, all kinds of different things. And so that takes staff requirements, it takes, equipment and lab data, I mean, all kinds of different things that requires that, so.
Okay, I'll be quiet now.
I mean, these are all, I mean, that's kind of, like, I'm excited to have this conversation because I think a lot of people see this as the city just trying to raise funds for another pet project, and that's not the case. That this, federal requirements are pushing us in this direction, and,
No money given.
well, yeah, exactly, the
Figure it
unfunded
out.
federal mandate.
Being an
is-
unfunded mandate.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I'm not gonna shut up. So
That's
in
why
that-
we're here.
In that respect, what, and something that might be good for public education is examples of stormwater damage and how it affects the public on a daily basis, in that respect. I mean, my one thing that comes to mind, and I could be wrong, but the Joe Hall property.
Yep.
And then so if, maybe an example of if this were in place before that damage, how much money would have been saved by the city in trying to, not just by the city, but by Joe Hall himself and his large property there in the repairing of that, that kind of thing. So, I know, cause just a lot of projects that have gone on in the city over the last 8 to 10 years, one of the questions that I've heard consistently is, why didn't the city, or why didn't we save money for this ahead of time? Especially when it comes to like the water treatment plant and the wastewater treatment plant, why weren't we planning for this before? Which is why we did the rate study, and we're doing that now moving forward. So just things like that.
Yeah, and that Joe Hall Ford project is, I mean, that is, been trying to save money for that one, and that's, since there is no utility, that's coming out of property taxes, so there's a certain portion of property taxes that go into that each year, and that's, as we've learned in the last couple of years, the cost of construction is outpacing our ability to save for projects like that right now. I mean, we're getting close, but it's, I think at this point, I know it's over $1 million, it may be close to 2 at this point, and so when you're saving, pennies under the couch cushions to get to a $2 million project, that takes a long time to get it built up, and Joe Hall that is just one component of that 21st Street corridor that has a lot of long-standing drainage issues, and there's the treatment component, then there's the flooding component, and it's hard to break them apart, but you've got, it's a little bit of both, and that we've got discharge that goes directly into Clearwater and the Snake River, and that's not what we're trying to prevent.
Yes, Laura, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, just I'd like to add streets and roads to the list of items that we need to kind of have a conversation about. 'Cause it's the one item, a lot of people, stormwater is not something people are aware of, that's gonna be a big deal. And I know one of the other big issues is gonna be the nutrient load, and that's gonna be a whole nother component of education is the, you know, the solids and the fertilizers and everything, for education. But that's why you have to do a lot of testing and but yeah, streets and roads are I know, just, it seems like a lot of people that I've just come in contact, everybody's just frustrated about the roads, so. Yes,
Question.
Ryan.
A little bit more fundamental question.
Okay.
What is the role of this commission? Like, what is our purpose? Are we advising Public Works Director, or is it more to council, or what is our function? What is our purpose?
That is the question that I've been trying to figure out myself. And that, I think there's ultimately, one thing that I think the concept of this group started, probably 5 to 7 years ago. There was a working group that was it was focused on stormwater, and so it was a similar mix of people, of technical folks, people who didn't like paying property taxes, who wanted to volunteer. And so that group kind of went through the stormwater regs and went through all the master plans and asked the difficult questions to staff and even went out in the public and kind of vetted out some of these ideas. And ultimately, they came back to the city council with a recommendation. They all put their names on it and said, this is, you know, these are the things that we agree with, and here, they had a couple comments that said, we don't agree with that, and this is how we would change that. And so the staff used that, essentially it was a letter, but referencing other documents, and use that as kind of the basis moving forward with the creation of the stormwater utility. And so that in itself, I think the staff at the time, that'd be Chris Davies and a couple other folks, and Clarkston has a similar Public Works Advisory Committee that meets separate from the city council. And so I think there's a lot of goodwill that we can kind of build up internally here and vetting out some of that. So I think a lot of that will be just getting feedback to me. But I think there will be times that it's more appropriate that this group says or the council members who are on this board, when you have your liaison comments. But I think whether it's comments to the staff, comments to the director, or a formal recommendation to the city council saying, we've reviewed it, we support or we don't support, you know, this is the action we're gonna take. So I think high level, that's what I would like to see this board move forward in the direction. But with that being said, I am eager to just start, this is great. The conversation of what is stormwater, how can we address the streets, budgets. I think organically that you guys are the first ones here. So a year from now, we may say that we're scrapping that idea. We've got a whole other idea of what we're gonna move forward. And if we need to change the bylaws or you know, some other things that we can do that.
If I might, thank you. My feeling was that this is such a big part of our city, and what goes on, it touches everything, it seems like. And the public doesn't know, and they don't respect what's going on because of lack of knowledge. And so I always saw this group 3 years ago before we didn't get started, but 3 years ago when we were put on this committee, it was to be between almost the public and council and Public Works. That's kind of how I saw it. To work with Public Works to get a better feel for all the things they do. I don't know how a layperson could ever figure it out. There's so much. And then help with council's understanding and of certainly putting the hand out to the public. That's what I saw this committee doing. And we certainly would be doing some of that. If there was things we had to go out to the public in a outreach, I would be glad to do that. We did that with the bond. It was, you know, it was great work, and I enjoyed it. So, yeah, that's how I saw it.
I think a lot of people just don't know about things that are happening. That's like, I didn't even know about the stormwater. Like, I'm gonna have to go Google that later because I just don't know about it, but it affects us. It's like, I think how you said that, like, or about education, like, I feel like just like more public outreach and like,
We have had meetings as far as roads, in the future that are like timelines of when we would expect to get those done, how much they cost, grants needed for them. A lot of times, whether it be citizens are working and are not able to attend, or, maybe we're not getting it out there enough, we don't see a huge amount of citizens show up for it, which is kind of one of the ways we've tried to like involve the community into this broad process. And council meetings and work sessions, when we talk about public works, it's kind of crammed into like a 30-minute discussion. So you don't really get a lot of the fundamentals and what we need it for, and so the citizens are only kind of getting a snapshot of it. And hopefully with this is centralized around this, around wastewater and our roads, that we can, maybe the citizens can listen, and you guys can also be advocates for that, and so they'll get a, like you said, deeper understanding of like, this is what we need to do, this is where the timeline is, 21st Street is on our brains, we're not just trying to shove it under the rug. And so that way we can, public outreach can happen with this, as well as giving input. You guys might talk to the citizens, and they're saying, we don't wanna see this kind of road happen, we really need to see this, and you guys might be able to say that to us, and then it can maybe come back to council. Well, obviously, we'll be able to talk on that since we're here, but.
When you say they, are you referring to this committee?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so-
I figured, because when it's us.
Yes,
we're- okay.
us. So, I'm saying they as in you guys, I guess I should say. So when you talk to the community maybe, and obviously me too, I talk to citizens when they write me and on about, but talk to them about what we're doing here and what the future looks like, and then they may say, this road isn't as big a deal to us, maybe it's more this one. Maybe you can come back to this meeting and say, hey, we've been hearing from the citizens and we're seeing this be an issue, and then we'd be able to talk to that as a council.
So, and this is where I think having a commission or a committee as this is, it gives the director a chance, instead of in getting preparation before going to a city council, it allows him to then, and the staff, to present options and saying, well, I can go down this option, I've got this money or such and such. Then would be our, I would see sort of our position or our job at that point to then kind of say, so where is your funding? How much do you have on this? Through your CIP dollars, where is this and that? Where it might be at that point, maybe redirecting, saying, well, what if we reprioritized and went down this direction? How would it, it's gonna be, I guess that's kind of how I figured some of that would be, is that sorting through some of those things, looking at the nuts and bolts of it, looking at the dollars, looking at those things, and helping guide those decisions at that point at this level, so that it's another set of eyes and ears out there before going to the council at that point. So I was kind of seeing this committee kind of being that, where understanding, so it's, yes, I know 21st Street is a big deal, but there's probably 122 miles of roadway, which I don't know, I'm just pulling a number out there. And those are the types of facts that sometimes people forget, and I think the other thing is people are forgetting the county's here, the city's here. So unfortunately, that roadway, and there's a lot of confusion there. Sometimes people are like, no, that's the state, and the state has to take care of that. So, but that doesn't help, the director necessarily in helping his position and trying to sort through all of this to get the dollars, or help support or provide additional info, because public works is dollars driven. I mean, it's just what it is. It's dollars driven. They have to have money in order to, as Kevin has brought up, why didn't they do that years ago? Well, nobody wants to pay stuff, but they don't, it's a matter of how do you put the cart before the horse to get that money in place for them to do. And then you're not having to do bonds all the time, because nobody wants a bond. I mean, it's just, nothing personal, but nobody wants bond. So they want, maybe this committee or something to be a little bit more creative in helping find that maybe some of those solutions and working on it at a grassroots level here. And that's what I'm hoping with some of the expertise in this room, kind of maybe asking those questions ahead of time and getting ahead of it so that when it goes back to the council, they're really getting a stronger vetted position on it. Not just kind of the education part of it, but using some of the expertise in the room to help get those decisions and explore. But I'll let it go.
Brian, did we answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Did you have thoughts?
I do actually, no, and I just kind of summarize it, just so I can kind of understand it. I appreciate the input on that too. So it seems like it's an opportunity for a more deep dive than probably what other open meetings can get into, specific to public works items. So specifically, I'm sure we all hear a lot from the public about, why did council make this decision on this project and not this other one? Well, this is an opportunity to kind of go behind the curtain in that a little bit and show, here's how the debate went or the discussion went and how they arrived at that solution. So to me, I think that just seems like a good role to play.
Yeah, and I think, when we get our open meetings training, I mean, that's the challenge of, I mean, this is a place to, I will feel comfortable, and it is a public meeting, but I will feel more comfortable to say, here's X, Y, and Z, here's the options and that we've considered, and I think this group may say that asking questions that I, as an engineer, I wouldn't think of, or as a public agent, I wouldn't think of, but somebody would say, could you do this, this, or this? It puts a different spin on it, and maybe it helps better facilitate the issue that we're trying to work around, or creates a more clear conversation, because, and that may be part of what this group helps do. We reinvented, at least for the transportation, we reinvented the CIP process, capital improvement project process, I think in 2021. It's new, and we still can't get anybody to come provide comments. And when we do approve a project, the most recent one be the roundabout up on 10th, that they didn't like it. And so I'm trying to get here, and at some point you have to move forward and follow the orders that you've been given, and some of those are written CIP, some of those are directives from my boss or the council. But at some point, I like to be very reflective on where are we today and how did we get here, and what did we learn? And so I think that's what the tool that this group can do, is help me be better at my job and trying to facilitate. I keep telling everybody, I don't want to build a project that you don't want. So I'm not here. My job is not to force projects onto the public. Some of them, like a water treatment plant, and a wastewater treatment plant, whether you like it or not, you're gonna have to do it. But there's, street projects tend to get a lot of the focus, and like it or not, our infrastructure is in the state that, should we do 21st Street before we do Thane? Probably, but they're all in a condition, or I shouldn't say they're all in a condition, but a lot of the arterials are in a condition that you can't go wrong by investing in that infrastructure. So it's just
there's
better,
always
right?
gonna be criticism no
Yep.
matter what you do.
Yep.
A little bit of, I guess, past, present, and future. Speak on the subject of stormwater, my thoughts move to, we're in the middle of redoing the comprehensive plan. How can we tie the stormwater into future planning like that? And then also will we be looking at amending city code as it comes to like planning and zoning for new subdivision planning, or that kind of stuff? And then how does this interact with Lloyd?
So the comprehensive plan is being redrafted. The current comprehensive plan was adopted, I think, in 94, was it? 99, okay. So it's outdated, and so I have a background in development and have worked in communities that have accelerated growth and have seen the value of how a comprehensive plan can speak to any facility plan, whether it's stormwater, water, wastewater, transportation, and those two play off each, or the engineering documents play off that comp plan. Like, and I like to say, it's kind of chicken and the egg. Do you want the transportation facility plans first, or do you want the comp plan? And you're gonna adopt one, then you're gonna amend it, then you're gonna adopt, you continue to amend them as you go through. And that's what's gonna happen. So we will amend that comp plan and it will be updated. And our current facility plans, which are fairly new, but Ryan knows better than I do. When was the water facility plan adopted? 2019? So I think wastewater was a year before, a year after that, but they're all within a couple years. But now we're in 23, so by 24, you kind of want to cycle through those every about 5 years. And so as we adopt the comp plan, then we're gonna be looking back at the facility plans, the transportation plans, and particularly the stormwater. And so that will help dictate where those plans are gonna go. The second part of the question was, what was the second part?
Can I just interrupt?
Oh,
for-
yes.
Go ahead and remember what that is.
This is the design
Did
standards.
we actually move on to the next item, the agenda topics, or is this still part of?
Still discussion of initial focus.
So
I
we
feel like they've blended.
Yeah, it's,
I-
there, we
I know
won't
we
have.
action items on both, but I feel like we've blended at this point,
Yeah.
Yeah,
because
at
we're
this
trying to
point,
sort
we're-
it out. I feel like we should have,
It
Okay.
got it ahead of me, I think. So I think that is part of agenda. I mean, topics. So
Okay.
can we go ahead and actually move on into that so that you know where we are? Thank you so much. And then if you still have that question that Dustin would like you to redo, then we'll hear from Laura.
Well, no, so I was just gonna go back, so you're correct, so at this point, I guess we need to kind of finalize the points of what is the focus of the commission, and then agree to that, because it says we're to do an action item on
That
that.
is an action item. Thank you.
So, I guess going back and kind of summarizing, it sounds like it's a combination of technical, financial, and education outreach of this committee in prioritizing or helping prioritize various projects or needs within the Public Works Department as a recommendation to the Public Works Director, which then therefore then goes towards the City Council for direction.
Okay, we have a motion.
But
on
I was
the-
just, but
That was
I was just trying to summarize it, but I'd like to hear from others if, what other points, because I feel like I missed something. I was trying to kind of summarize a couple of things that you brought up, but I feel like I just missed 2 items that you had, so.
Did you want to add to that motion?
I felt like what you just said covered it very well.
Okay.
I like it. It was more general.
Did you
I
get
like
what
it.
It sounded, directional and flexible, so.
Okay. Does that sound agreeable? I mean,
That sound,
Yes, I think that's
Okay.
exactly what I was,
Encapsulated, great.
yeah.
I'll
So
second that.
we have a motion on the floor. We
I'll
all heard
second
it, and we have a second. Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, great, that passes. So now, we can start on the next one, which is agenda topics. And again, this is an action item, so we'll need to do the same thing at the end of this one.
So we are-
Kevin, you had a second question for Dustin?
That was asking about design standards and how it would impact development.
Yeah, well, as far as like city code for, development of like things that are actually going on now and soon to be.
Yeah, and that's, yes, I think that would be something that this group would be definitely tasked with. I don't know if we're in a position, at least staff-wise, we've had, whether it's engineering design standards, stormwater design standards, development code, subdivision code, which is a big one, and there was one more, right-of-way standards, which is kind of a play in all of that. Those are all in review and have been in review since I got to the city 3 years ago. And what's unfortunate is, and it kind of, we just readopted our personnel manual, which was so outdated and antiquated that it took took so many, it was such a task that by the time you thought you were done, you went back and you realized you were, you needed to start over. And so, with the comp plan moving forward, I think that will better educate, or better feed some of the standards that we've talked about, at least on the subdivision standards or subdivision procedures and policies. But I think what this group could help, and it may be a couple months from now, or maybe even a year from now, when we start getting maybe some design standards for stormwater, right-of-way standards, some of those things. And some of this stuff, I mean, I don't know if this group will get much. Some members Ryan may dive right into some of this stuff, but some of the rest of them saying, I don't really care what you choose for a curb radius for a local standard street, but.
Go ahead.
It's important, I can tell you that much, it's very important.
Yes,
So,
it is.
but I
Yeah,
think,
they're-
big picture, that may be my task to say, these are the benefits of X, Y, and Z, and here's how it could impact, whether it's development or how we, how we maintain the infrastructure. So those are the types of things, and that would be staff's responsibility when we come to you to make sure that we're prepared to have the right discussion, and for you to just look at something and say, yeah, it looks good, fine, I don't know what you're talking about. So to get away from that.
So basically, it was a comprehensive plan and the codes and whatnot, is that zoning and whatnot?
Sure.
Okay. Is that kind of what everybody heard as well?
Yeah, and I was
Okay.
just gonna add to what he was saying is the standards really are critical, especially with the city on the verge of a lot of growth. And those standards can help or hinder a public works department down the road and into the future. That if they're not established and done well and out there quickly, then the problem is later on down the road, when you get to a situation, for an example, so having certain standards, like on a roadway, that making sure that everybody, like a utility right away, you wanna have at a minimum, no less than 4 feet, you want a maximum of 6 feet, you want it consistent throughout there because of how it deteriorates roads in a 5 and a 10-year pattern, so that therefore you don't have to do replacement costs later on. Well, of course, the contractor is always like, well, no, they complain and then they wanna bump up the rates and all that bit, but the problem is, it's an important part of the public works department so that then they don't have to deal with the roads later on. And then making sure that overlay and stuff is done well so that it doesn't crack in the streets or you get ruts in the wrong place. So, that's just kind of one example, those types of things out there. It's really important to get out there as fast as possible, like he was bringing up. So those standards I would hope would come sooner than later, just on the agenda items. Because going forward, whether it's with CIP and all these other things, as we're talking about stormwater, as we're talking about streets, those standards play into a lot of everything, and monetary later on too, for compensation. So it's a good item to bring forward.
Okay. Any other, are we through with this?
So on the agenda topics do we have, I was just gonna count those down.
I've got
So if
budget,
there's any-
stormwater, streets/roads, and the design standards.
Okay.
And when you say stormwater, you're talking about the actual ordinance itself?
That will be the first one that comes next,
Okay.
during the next meeting, but it
Okay.
will go in the ordinance, which will be adopted first, then the utility rate, and then the implementation of the utility/permit. So that one will probably expect to see that one every meeting, or at least an update of some sort.
Okay.
I'm anticipating there's gonna be just like an ongoing update of the reservoir, just until things kind of get on track for a patch, and then I guess then there's gonna be the discussion based on your presentation of what are we gonna do long-term.
Yep.
Okay, so
Yep,
that's
I
gonna be probably a standing item for a little bit of a,
Yep, I think that.
just as a separate item, okay.
You have
development code in there too, or do you want that as an agenda item?
I would put it all under the standards. I'll include that.
Okay. Dustin, you have a good list there to make a motion?
Oh, yeah, I'm good.
That for me?
What's that?
You wanna make a motion on, for us to accept that,
Sure, I would
the
make,
agenda items?
I would make a motion that staff bring forward the following items for future discussion or future topics, agenda topics. Them being a budget, stormwater, streets/roads, design standards, which would encompass right-of-way engineering standards, stormwater standards, and development code, and regular reservoir updates.
So we have a motion on the floor, you've got a second for it, great. Any other discussion?
Well, I'm assuming we will have agenda topics just as a standard, also just as
Yes.
things come up
Every
on
month.
there, so we'll be,
Or every-
we can adjust that.
That'd be
Okay.
good, yes, yes. So no other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Yeah, that passes. Okay, on to 5, commissioner comments. Any comments from the commission?
So I just have a question, maybe I missed it. Have we figured out how often we're meeting? Is it monthly at this point?
I think monthly at this point.
Okay.
We will, we've got a lot of homework to do now to get all this information put together, but I think monthly, I guess next month, let's talk about if we need to have bi-weekly meetings. I think we've got work to do to get everything kind of put in order now that I got feedback from you. And if there's we may get into crunch time with a lot of stuff going on. Summer seems to move faster, and so I may be coming back to you and say, we're not gonna cover all of this in an hour. We're gonna need to do this, either stretch this out or condense it down to cover these topics, so.
Okay.
So hypothetically, if we did do the bi-weekly thing, how says we can't miss, like, I leave in the summer, but I was gonna come back for the once every month, because I have the historical one too, so, and I have family that live here, so I was just gonna come for the week. But like, I could join remotely for
Yeah, I was gonna
those
say,
bi-weekly
we can
ones,
set
and that
up-
wouldn't matter, so.
Has she
And that's all.
voted in anyway, or like confirmed by the council in her position?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, she was, okay.
She is so she's the student representative.
I guess maybe this is a subject for next meeting. I don't think we need to put it in anything else, but do we need to decide, or should we decide whether or not she can be a voting member of the commission? Like next meeting, we can just make a motion for that to happen.
We
If that's-
actually change the bylaws.
If that,
because-
and we can, that's what I mean, that's what I'm talking about, because in the bylaws, it says that we can do that at any point in time.
We would
Is it
actually need to amend city code.
I mean,
It's in the
yes,
city
I
code.
didn't mean bylaws, I meant the city code, because you're one of the ones at large that is a student that doesn't have voting.
Oh, okay.
So, if that's what we would choose, we can certainly do that. But
Okay.
the way it was done 3 years ago is as a non-voting member, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
That is
So-
correct.
But it's there to be discussed.
I will say, and this is to council members, we are doing, I was gonna say this for my own comment, but staff is moving forward with amending the code to allow 2 more members to this board. Because when I read it, I didn't realize the 2 council members counted towards our total of 5 plus a student, so I've gotten some interests. We couldn't get anybody, and now I've got too many people,
And
so.
that's good, that was I was gonna go on that, kind of my next thing was, do we need to expand? And are we all that applied? But now you say that we've got more interest and
I have 1 more application in the book, and I have 2 more people of interest that haven't
And-
applied yet.
I would say, yeah, I mean, just put it out there, my mindset would be 2 more would be
And then we can make that change if we chose to do that
And
all
then you, yes,
at that time.
Yep.
And this is, going back 3 years, so, and we couldn't get any public at all. But that's the reason we want the public, is because nobody knows about Public Works. They just all feel you take all our money. That's what they think.
Well, and prior to the meeting, I was just sharing briefly. Public Works, years ago, when I worked with the Public Works Department, the director came in and wanted to change that, putting the staff out, making them more aware. They were more in the background, and pushing them out there to be more front and center was a very hard thing and a very, kind of resistant. It was kind of changing the whole mental aspect of it. And over a 10-year period, getting them out there, having them make more presentations, all of those types of things, it got them more recognition. They were always ahead of the game instead of behind the curve, taking all the flack that they were fixing things ahead of time, that the community started taking notice that, like you were saying, then it changes that whole perception of Public Works. And as part of that, the education then gets stronger. So they understand that it's, so many miles of roadways, so many pipes, of water and sanitation, how many pump stations, how many parks, how many linear acre feet that they have to mow, or, whatever those types of things. That's what, Public Works Day, which is coming up, which I was those are the types of things, getting that information while they're out there all the time at groups, or trying to get, some of them to go to community groups, whether it be Rotary or something. That's where those public work advocates then can really start changing the focal point, and you get indirect feedback that way too. So it's hard, but it's at a good time.
And it's just like if you have, like, we were on the homeless shelter, the committee, and once people hear there's a committee, and it was just short-lived, but they've got a committee out there, and so we would be contacted. So once this gets known, we'll probably get public comments.
Yes.
So I think that is what is
Do we have
wonderful
that in
about
here?
it.
Yep.
Pardon?
We didn't have any public, but yeah.
Not yet.
Not yet.
It's coming soon.
Oh.
To committee New Year.
I've been contacted already.
Have you?
Oh, have you?
How great that is. Good.
And that's what that's what it's for.
What did they contact you for?
Just wondering what it was all about.
Oh, good. At least they were interested.
Right.
Yes.
Wanting to know.
Shady stuff are you guys up to?
Yeah.
Okay. So any more discussion on that, or was that your comment?
That was my comment. I will go, since we have a list here, I will go through real quick. The budget kickoff is this afternoon, so that's a timely, we will start putting together Public Works' budget. Essentially, we're doing it now, so that process,
You're stressed, oh my gosh, I saw her face just go blank there for a moment. What did I make?
I went through my calendar, there was no other.
There was nothing else on the calendar.
it'll be here at 3 o'clock, it's only staff,
Well,
but.
maybe I can be here for that.
So,
Did it twice.
So budget kickoff, and then I'll get you all the information. What I'm going to try and do is get packets out to this board as quickly as we can, so you guys have enough time to review the material. Flat out, there's a lot of material to review if we really wanna
Every time you
talk
guys give
about.
us stuff, it's a lot.
I don't wanna be a city councilor, I'm sorry. Your packets.
We need a solid week at least.
Yeah,
You're right,
exactly.
yeah.
The only other thing I would add is reservoir update, so, for this board's knowledge, we are trying to reuse the existing reservoir. We went in there and demolished out where the rupture was. We have engineers, we had a meeting this morning at 8 AM talking about what we have found, solutions to it, how we're gonna move forward. It's 100 years old, it doesn't look great, it looks better than we thought, but I was gonna make some inappropriate comment. It's like, at a distance, it looks great, and as you look closer, it doesn't look as good. We're looking in it, and I think there's route forward. We need to get it filled for irrigation season is what's driving it, but there's fire suppression, you know, if we run the system out, pipes collapse, then we have no water whatsoever. And trying to, we'll be kicking off a public education campaign to let the public know, here's how much water we have in the system. So if you draw too much irrigating and we're in the red and the system fails, we have no fire suppression and we have no water, period. So a lot of that is dictated by where you're at within the system. And so it's hard to say, you're good, but you're not. And then why am I no good? Well, it's all driven by hydraulic grade lines. And hydraulic grade lines don't necessarily follow the street grid. And so trying to say, this address is good, but this address is not. So it's a heavy push. And I've told the mayor and I've told my staff that that's my number one priority. And there's a lot of things that I've kind of pushed off until hopefully around June-ish, we will be having a reservoir that has some capacity. I don't know what that looks like, that we will have that on. It will be the temporary long-term fix, but we know that we need to find a route forward where we're not relying on that 4.5 million gallons that we were this time last year. So that's the long and the short of the reservoir update. And like I said, we had a meeting this morning. I got emails while I was sitting in this meeting, so things change so fast right now on what we're doing on that one.
Okay.
And I also want to be respectful of everybody's time, so it's 1:02 and I'm done talking.
I just have one quick one.
Of
So,
course.
one thing that seems a little different, particular related to Lewiston and Public Works, is that we do have to interact with LOID as kind of it's a little bit of a unique thing, so that's something I'd probably like to see at a future meeting, is how we kind of work together with LOID and what impact decisions we have may
Whether they're still taking
and vice versa.
Yeah, I think that's a great,
Yes.
Do you know the acronym? I was just gonna say, so the acronym, because I saw she kind of looked and I was going, so LOID for her.
It's Lewiston Orchards Irrigation District.
so half of the city is fed by an irrigation district that's not affiliated with the city. So we have two types of water users in the city.
And we don't use the same pipes anywhere, is that correct?
We have one intertie.
I thought there was one, because I was
But
at
it's
one
closed.
meeting.
Yeah, we sold them water last summer. So we have an agreement that if there's ever an
Right.
urgent emergency, and
Right.
we've already looked at for the reservoir there in the wrong
Thank you, that was
location,
the
and they
question.
don't, it's not enough. If you have a significant,
Okay.
Lloyd had a well down last year and they had, the lead time on the pump wasn't gonna get here, so we backfed them a certain amount of water to keep their system up. But if we're talking 3,000 gallons a minute, that can't keep up, that's not enough, so we've already considered Lloyd, but they can't give us enough water, and they have the same problem we do, and irrigation demand strains their system, so they don't even have, they may have the water to give us, but it's not gonna enough to make a difference. But yes, you have you have a water district and then you have two sewer districts within the city of Lewiston. And I think that water is one thing and the sewer's gravity fed. And so master planning around how sewer districts operate within the city is another thing that we should be discussing too.
Point, yes. Yeah, that sounds
And
good.
that's
Thank you
another
for that
acronym.
question.
COSD.
Central
Yeah, that's
Orchard Sewer
COSD,
District.
another acronym.
I knew the SD. I was on the Solid Waste Advisory Commission in Meridian, so I know the solid waste stuff and sewage and stuff.
Good.
And then I was just gonna bring up one last item for everybody. Public Works Week is May 21st through the 27th. The expo is on the 25th, so hopefully maybe just a little of what is planned for that week for education and outreach on the 25th. The reason I figured it was kind of important to understand is one of our roles will be also helping advise, educating, and Public Works Week is a huge thing nationally on education and outreach. Some entities do a lot, some don't, and as we can see, a lot of education and outreach is needed, as well as an item that Ryan and I were talking about is to get people to come into the industry So, job fairs and things of that nature in the future, which they don't like to go to, but once they got into it, they really did start enjoying going to job fairs and trying to recruit people in, so.
So,
Just
yeah,
FYI.
we have, the proclamation, which goes
has
before
America
the,
got that going?
yeah, the proclamation goes to council on
Should be next month.
next month, so we had the proclamation, so we get a little bit of recognition at the council. What we have traditionally done in the valley here is we have Public Works Day up at the fairgrounds. It's catered towards kids, so we reach out to all the school districts, Soton, Clarkston, and Lewiston. And it's a joint participation by all those agencies. We all get together, we kind of share off, we share, so we don't have all just road departments. We have wastewater and water, sanitation, stormwater, GIS, I'm trying to think of everything else, surveying, we have the signals guys up there, we have different stations, and so we set up and we have the kids come through, and unfortunately COVID shut us down for, I think, 2 seasons. So last year was our first one back after COVID, and we probably had 3, maybe we had a full, it felt like a lot.
I still have my hat that says
We
Public
tracked the
Works.
numbers, I think we might have been a little bit low, but it didn't feel like that.
Didn't feel like it.
And so I'm hoping this year that we have even more success. I think we can probably send the group out kind of a FYI if anybody's available and wants to come by. It's kind of fun because, like I said, we cater it to the kids, and we have the exploding toilet, that's the most popular
love
one.
that.
Oh my God.
The-
Well,
the-
okay. You know, and actually, seniors love coming too, if you can start inviting seniors.
Yeah,
They're your best voters, so, and they were kind of forgotten,
Oh,
but they
yeah.
started, the grandparents and started coming with the kids.
and that's that we started
Seniors are
seeing that
great.
more parents, I mean, because they bring chaperones.
Oh, let's have kids bring a grandparent day. I mean, they get
No, it's-
a pin or something
Yeah.
for it.
It's
Yeah.
wonderful.
That,
It's,
that would be a fun thing to do.
See, I've got feedback now, I got some
All right.
homework, so
I've got a wedding on, my granddaughter's getting married on the 27th, so I might be preoccupied,
Okay.
I don't know.
oh, bring them all, the whole
Oh,
wedding
the
party.
whole,
Yeah.
okay, the whole wedding party.
All
Say
dressed
their
up
vows
nicely.
over the exploding toilet.
I'll be sure and tell the granddaughter that.
Sure, she'll love that for her wedding.
Yeah.
So that is what we do, that's how we celebrate Public Works Day. If you notice downstairs, we cycle, because APWA, American Public Works Association, they're essentially the driving force, and so every year they come out with a new calendar or a new poster, so we update and we use all their updated literature for this, and so yeah, I would like to see how, because that was the one thing that, not having done it for 2 years and then having it last year, the kids just love just being outside, and it's usually this time of year, so it's a little bit warmer, and they just run and go crazy, and they love the games and what we do. It's the parents are like, oh, I didn't realize this is why you do it like this. They always learn something. We've got a
They're
great,
pretending they know, well,
yeah,
yeah.
oh yeah, I knew that. But we have a great demonstration of
that's so true.
wastewater treatment, and so you can see how we treat, wastewater and how it goes back into the
A lot
river.
of work for you to put that on.
I would not say me, the people that.
You and,
Yeah, there's a lot of people in the Public Works Department that put a lot of effort into it, and having not done it for a couple of years,
you get rusty.
they didn't wanna do it. So I told them, I said, nope.
oh, my heart was still.
Yeah, I said, no, this is something, again, bringing, like, this is where we get the buy-in.
Oh, you gotta have, it's, yeah, and seeing the staff do it, it's
Yeah, it is definitely a lot of work, but
It's what day?
May 25, right?
Yep, 9 to
25.
9 to 2.
Yeah, they have one I'm ready, and it is fun. I like that, yeah.
I have nothing further.
Anybody else, did you have any comments?
No.
Okay, Evan, Cassie?
Just excited to start this off, and thanks for
Finally.
serving, guys, being a part of it.
All right, how about adjournment? Do I have a motion?
Oh, well, I mean, I don't know if we talked about item 6, but
Oh,
all of us plan
That's
to
not-
attend
Oh, May 10th, yeah.
10th at noon. I'll be,
okay, now what, yeah, I was putting the two of them together, commissioner comments and staff liaison comments.
query of commissioners that are.
He'll be in town.
What is the May 10th?
Our next meeting.
Our next meeting.
Okay. Oh, whether we'll be here or not. Okay, now I got it.
Is it May 10th? Is it the 2nd or the 3rd? Did I?
I've got the second.
Should be the second Wednesday.
Oh, darn it.
I should be here.
Okay.
Anyone that cannot make it?
All right.
Oh, good.
All right. So, okay, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
You second for that?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And we're all coming back for your budget.
I'm not, I gotta go work.
I would suggest